Well, it's a gorgeous spring day, and I am on the new Evil Insurgent. This big boy's got 170 millimeter travel up front with a 29-inch wheel and 168 millimeters of travel in the rear with a 27.5 wheel. So a little bit of mixed action going on. I'm happy to report that this thing pedals quite a bit like the Reckoning, where it's just like you hop on the bike and it's a really plush, like incredibly plush initial stroke of the shock. But then you go to pedal it, it's like, whoa, like it's a really solid platform there. So, to have so much travel and for it to be just so plush with that coil, for it to be such a stiff pedal platform, like kind of takes you off guard the first time you try it. But it's such a lovely thing to have, so much support back there on these bikes that they kind of strike this balance between almost like a pedalable downhill bike. But the cool thing is you can get up to these peaks that you're not able to shuttle, and the pedal's not so bad. Moving beyond the pedaling kinematics, just like a fairly lightweight feeling bike when you go to pick it up off the rack. Just like, okay, we got a Super Deluxe coil in the rear, got a Zeb up front, and it's just not that heavy of a bike. And it just feels like quite playful and poppy, even as you're pedaling up the mountain. As I've mentioned before with Evil bikes, they all come with the same 430, 432 chainstay, and you can really feel it on the big end of the line on the Reckoning and this Insurgent. It's just keeping that rear end so short and zesty just creates this unmistakable feeling. So this bike with the 170 fork up front and the 29-inch wheel feels quite a bit like a Reckoning. But then you got this strange thing where that rear wheel is just a little bit lighter, hops out of the way a little bit easier. There's this very strange hover bikey phenomenon with that little rear wheel. It just feels so good when you're going downhill. Another thing I've grown to enjoy over my many rides on this bike is that coil while climbing. Since you have the pedaling kinematics on your side, it's really open and free without lockout to just absorb roots and crap while climbing. It's able to stay so lively, and the initial stroke on this bike is just so dang supple. Pretty large bike, but just got that short chainstay spirit. It's quite lightweight, and you just find yourself fooling around and jibbing things on the climb up, which can't say is how I felt with every 170 millimeter bike. All right, time for the good part. Man, it's so lovely to pedal this big bike around. Oh my gosh. The way the coil kind of absorbs those roots is just, it's so special. Ew! Big chunks, no problem. Yeah, it's just that coil really dives into the travel. And I wonder if the smaller weight, the mass, the smaller mass of that 27.5 wheel, I wonder if that gets out of the way a little easier. That sprung mass. Ew! Oh man. The old hover bike, but it's so nimble. Just really like the proportions of this bike. And there's something about that smaller rear wheel that makes it even easier to manipulate this bike around corners. Oh man, so much spring, so much pop. Love that. Yeah, it's like a big bike, and then that was a pretty tight corner. Just squeezes right through there. Doesn't have a monstrous chainstay to deal with. I just love how you can both be precise about your lines with this bike and ride right through stuff. So it's just like, what do you want? The best of both worlds? Sweet. That rear end just feels nice to just like throw into the corner. I will say on a couple occasions, I've noticed that smaller rear wheel lacks a little bit of the braking force, but it makes it up in just this really playful, fast direction changing feel. You gotta just love that end of the day light situation going on. God, I feel like I'm on this extremely, impossibly agile downhill bike. I feel extremely stable, but also just so zippy and playful. I mean, it's like still like a lightweight bike with the carbon construction. I just love like beating up these Evil frames, or like trying to. They're just so chunky and meaty feeling that I love just kind of like punishing them, landing deep. It's that super rigid woo, swing arm. And this bike especially, you just got a little bit of extra traction, making you feel like a superhero because there's so much wheel travel. Yeah, I don't know why I've just like really connected with this bike in particular. There's something about the mixed wheel size that I just really have been wanting, but I'm a believer in the mixed wheel size, that's for sure. I've really become a fan of how the RockShox stuff is doing their damping. It's just a little bit more range of adjustment than with other suspension I've used, and yeah, it just recovers from hits so fast. Just feel like I can set it up the way I want. There's just that nice silent suspension action. Oh, I haven't done any manuals yet today. What the heck? It's usually my first move. I got a bike with little chain stays. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a dangerous bike. Just feels like you're not really bound to the physics that you'd usually be bound to. You just kind of hover over things so precariously. And it's got so much suspension that I feel like my wrists can just handle a lot of riding without stopping. It's just a soft ride. But I think the ultimate story of this bike is like, it's a soft ride without feeling like just a big tank that's impossible to manipulate around. God damn. Just feel like you're on this downhill bike. I've had this bike out on some like really gnarly double black trails that aren't so high speed, and it also just really shines there. Like you don't feel like it's too big of a bike to be creeping around at slow speed. Just slap it around. God dang it. It just feels like it beckons for abuse. It just wants to be pushed really hard. It's a sadistic little bike, or big bike. with a little soul. It's just so, suspension is just so slinky and active without feeling like it gets in your way. The stoke is high tonight. Just trying not to let this thing make me make a bad decision. One of the craziest things about this bike is like I feel like I'm riding it pretty hard every time I go out, but these G2 brakes are just like not a great fit for such an aggressive bike. They're some of the better G2s I've used, but it's like, wow, I can't imagine with some more braking power what would be possible on this friggin' thing. God, just feel so stable. You can just like change direction quickly like you're on a much smaller bike, and then you just got that sloppy, soapy, soaky-uppy coil suspension. I just think Evils and coils were meant for each other. It just puts that really dialed leverage curve to use. Woo. So who's this bike for? This bike is definitely for that rider that's riding very aggressively and doing double blacks, big jumps and rock rolls and what have you. But they want that playful agility out of the rear end. They're not in it just for racing, even though this bike is extremely fast. Just feels so unstoppable right now. And then, you know, somebody who's not afraid to pedal around. You could easily ride this thing in the Whistler Bike Park all day, but you could also take it across the valley and bike up some 10% grade. So if you enjoyed this review today, try to like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and for the full write-up, head on over to freehubmag.com.